guys, it's Miss Summer. I have missed y'all so much, and I did make a video last week. It was kind of a busy weekend for us. It was a holiday weekend, and we were super busy at the lake and swimming and all that fun stuff, like I'm sure you guys did as well. So I was unable to make a video. But I'm back this week and next week and all the other weeks. So this week we're going to continue our theme of learning about our Bible characters. So the first week we learned about two new Bible characters, and they were Adam and Eve. They were our two Bible characters. And remember, they lived in a beautiful garden with lots of animals and trees and fruit, and it was perfect. And they lived with God, who could come around and talk to them and share stories with them, and it was just perfect. But then they made a really bad choice, and they ate fruit from a tree that they were not supposed to eat fruit from, and because they listened to the devil. And then they got kicked out of the garden, and they weren't allowed to live in the garden anymore. And we were never allowed to live in the garden. But although they were kicked out of the garden, Adam and Eve went on, and they had children who had more children, and we all are somehow, some way related to Adam and Eve because they were the first two people on earth. So today we're going to also learn about another really cool Bible character that I think is super awesome and one of my favorites. And he's a little bit like Saul Paul in the sense that he had one name when he was born, and then God gave him a new name. And he got a new name because he went into what we would call a covenant with God. So a covenant is something kind of like what you have with your mommies and daddies that you love very much, and they love you, and they protect you, and they keep you safe, and they feed you, and they put you in a house. And so that's kind of like what a covenant is. And so Abraham and Sarah, his wife, went into a covenant with God. And so we're going to learn about that a little bit today, not super in depth, but we're going to learn about that today. And so before we get started, I want to kind of share some information with you about this man named Abraham. So like I said, in the very beginning, his name was not Abraham. His name was Abram. And his wife, Sarah, her name was not Sarah. It was Sarah, or Sarai. And so they both got new names because that's what God wanted to do. And so, but just like Adam and Eve and Saul Paul, like we learned, they didn't always make the best choices. So sometimes they did. Sometimes they did what God told them to do and they listened, but then sometimes they didn't. And so I think it's really important for us to know that and for us to see that even these great Bible characters made bad choices too, just like me and you do sometimes. And so, but what's really important is that when you make a bad choice, that you, one, realize that you made a bad choice. So the first thing you can do is realize that that was a bad choice. I should not have said that. I should not have done that. And so you realize that you made a bad choice. That's number one. Number two is that you go and you ask for forgiveness. So you maybe go to your mommy or your daddy and tell them, I messed up. I need to be forgiven. And then you pray, and you pray to God, and you say, God, I messed up. I made a bad mistake, and I need to be forgiven. And so it's important for you to do that. And then the last thing you should do, number three, moving forward, is you should move forward, which means that you should go and you should not make that same bad choice again. And you might do it again, but you have to always try to be better. So when your brother steals your toy, or your sister steals your toy, or somebody makes you angry and maybe you hit them, that's not a good choice. Or maybe you say something mean to them, like, I don't like you. That's not a good choice either. And so you have to recognize, you have to see, oh no, I made a bad choice. And then you have to go to your friend and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I made that bad choice. And then you have to pray to God and say, God, I'm sorry that I made that bad choice. Because when I make bad choices like that, I'm not like you. And I want to always be like you. And then the last thing you have to do is try not to make that bad choice again. So when your friend or your brother or your sister makes you mad, you don't do the same thing again. And you might, and if you do, then you ask for forgiveness again. But you have to really, really try hard not to make that same bad choice again. So today we're going to learn about Abraham. And Abraham has a really cool story in the Bible. Abraham was super old. He was really, 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 really old when he became a dad. And him and his wife, Sarah, had a baby, and they were old. They were super old, probably older than any person you've ever met in your entire life old. But they had a little boy named Isaac. And we're going to learn a little bit about that. But more so, we're going to learn about the promise, the covenant that God made with Abraham and why he's super cool and so important. So I'm going to read from the Storybook Bible again because I really like this book and I think it's important for us to read from it together. Also, just know that all of these stories that are in this book are from the Bible itself. So you can always look up here if you have the book yourself, but you can always look up here and see that it says where you can find this story, which is in Genesis, which is the very first book of the Bible. And we learned about that as we were learning our song before life got complicated. So this, in our picture here, we have Abraham and his sheep because he was a shepherd. And then that man right there is Isaac. Okay, so Abraham was a good man who trusted God. God told Abraham, I want you to leave your home and your country and go to a new land that I will show you. Going to a new place was scary. Have you ever went to a new place before? I bet you have maybe a new school or a new birthday party, a new friend's house, and that was maybe a little scary, or maybe you went to a new doctor. Yeah, that's a little scary sometimes. But Abraham had to do it because God told him to, and so he trusted God. So let's see what happened next. Going to a new place was scary, but Abraham chose to trust God. Abraham and his wife Sarah packed up all their things. They gathered their sheep and cattle and traveled a long, long way. They took everyone in their house, including Abraham's nephew Lot and all of his animals. When they arrived in the new land, Abraham could not find enough food for all their animals. Again, Abraham chose to trust God. Lot, Abraham said, you can have the best land and I will move to a different place. And he did. So this man up here, sorry, I was wrong, is not his son. This is his nephew, Lot. So let's see what happened next. So Abraham went to a new land and he trusted God. So let's see where else Abraham trusted God. God told Abraham that Abraham and Sarah would have a baby. That was hard to believe because Abraham and Sarah were old. Abraham chose to trust God. And when Abraham was 100 years old, Sarah had a baby boy and they named him Isaac. There's Abraham and Sarah and Isaac. Abraham trusted God. You can trust God too. He is always by your side. There we go. So, we learned in our story today that Abraham and Sarah trusted God. They trusted God a lot. They trusted God when God told them to move into a new land. They trusted God when they gave Lot all of that really good land and they went somewhere new. And they trusted God to give them a baby. And that baby's name was Isaac. So we didn't talk about the choices, all of the choices that Abraham made. But Abraham did make some bad choices in his life. But he had a good relationship with God. and he continued that promise. God promised him things like having a baby and a new land, and he trusted God. And so it's so important that you trust God too. No matter what, no matter what, that you trust God too. So this week, I really want you guys to remember that Abraham trusted God and that you can trust God too. So before we go, we're going to say a prayer. And then next week, we're going to learn about another Bible character named Joseph. And Joseph is pretty cool. And we've learned about him before, but we're going to learn about him in a new way. So I really miss you guys. I haven't made any crafts lately, but if you guys are looking for fun activities to do, just have mommy and daddy text me or call me or get a hold of me, and I can come up with some fun ideas for you guys to do some stuff. Hopefully soon we'll see each other, maybe, who knows? But either way, talk at home this week about Abraham and Sarah, and talk about who they were and how they made choices to trust God. And I want you to figure out ways that you trust God every day in your life, with your friends, with your mommies and daddies, with your when you're playing outside, just different ways that you trust God. And I want you to think about that. And maybe there's a new way you want to trust God. So talk about that at home with your mommies and daddies. All right, so before we go, let's pray. So remember, we got to take our hands, fold them, close our eyes, and bow our head. Dear Jesus, thank you for loving me, taking care of me, and always leading me. Help me to trust you every day. I love you, Jesus. Amen. All right, that's it, guys. Talk about Abraham at home. I'm super excited. Hopefully soon, maybe not. I don't know. But to see you guys. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy all kinds of fun activities. I can't wait to hear about them when we get back at church. But I'll see you later. Bye.